The concept of the multiverse has been a staple of science fiction for decades. We've seen everything from parallel realities caused by alternate histories to phantasmagorical worlds where the laws of physics are flipped on its head. And nowhere is the multiverse more present than in comics. Pretty much every long-running superhero comic has a multiverse. It's a Cape Comics staple at this point. Marvel, DC, Image, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom Studios, all of them have a vast network of interconnected worlds inhabited by alternate universe counterparts of their characters. Marvel and DC, being the big two of the industry with decades and decades of history, of course have the most fleshed out multiverses. DC even have a guide to theirs, which is actually, as of now, out of date, now that everything is canon after Death Metal and Infinite Frontier introduced the Omniverse. But those are concepts for a whole other video. We're not here to talk about the infinite worlds of the DC universe, we're here to talk about the infinite worlds of the Marvel one. More specifically, the ones that I think are the most interesting. So strap in folks, because I'm about to take you on a ride through the strange and surreal worlds of the Marvel Multiverse. Before we head off to take a look at some alternate realities, let's look at the ones closest to home. And by home, I mean Earth-616. This is what you might call Earth Prime, the main continuity of Marvel Comics where all of their biggest stories take place. Inhabited by the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, this is home sweet home for all comic readers, and has been since 1961. Fun fact, the designation of 616 to the main continuity of Marvel Comics was actually given by the incomparable Snake Wizard himself, Alan Moore. Basically in an attempt to differentiate it from DC, where all the Earths have, more basic numbers like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. In his head, he believed that an infinite universe, the main universe, wouldn't be the first one, so he was just like, 616, let's call it 616. Anyway, surrounding Earth-616 is a myriad of dimensions, many of which have regular crossover between them thanks to any number of scientists, sorcerers, and superheroes. There are some friendly ones like Asgard, Kunlun, Otherworld, and the Utopian parallel, but mostly they're kinda just places you never really want to step foot in. Like the Negative Zone and its swarms of death-worshipping space bugs, or the Dark Dimension, ruled by the Dread Dormammu. Not to be confused with the Dark Force Dimension, where the teleporting Cloak gets his superpowers. Not to be confused with the Brimstone Dimension, where the teleporting Nightcrawler uses his superpowers. If those three dimensions seem a little samey, there is an explanation. They're all hells. Yup, the Marvel Universe has a serious surplus of them. Including the Dark Dimension, the Dark Force Dimension, and the Brimstone Dimension, you've also got Limbo, Mephisto's Hell, Hades, Hell with one L, and the Below Place. All of them nasty locales ruled by even nastier people. Aside from worlds representing the wicked and the divine, there are also those that are more science-based. Like the Microverse, which holds the underspace just a little further beneath it, and the overspace a whole lot farther above. Yes, you're seeing that correctly. Hank Pym once grew so large that he could stand shoulder to shoulder with cosmic abstracts. Yeah, Pym particles don't play. Now going further away from the 616 universe, we have the Superflow, the origin of dreams and ideas throughout the multiverse and the source of telepathic power. It's basically like a red soup of thoughts and emotion that kind of just meanders through the multiverse, and it on occasion is accessed by these things called night masks, which is yeah, let's just leave it at that. They're kind of like the avatars of the Superflow. Even further beyond that, we reach the neutral zone. This is the space that separates universes, a place where positive and negative matter coexist. This place was discovered by one Dr. Adam Brasher, aka the Blue Marvel, aka the next hero that desperately needs to make it to the MCU. I've got my fingers crossed for him to show up in the Marvels, but we'll see. Anyway, beyond the neutral zone is nothing but eternity. Eternity and the next world over. Well folks, I hope you're ready for the multiverse tour because it starts right now. Our first stop is Earth-1610, aka the Ultimate Universe, a world created in the crucible that was the departure of 90s Edge and the advent of 2000s Grimdark. Home to such great additions to the Marvel Universe like Samuel L. Fury, Ultimate Peter Parker, Miles Morales, The Maker, and nothing else. Yeah, the Ultimate Universe wasn't all bad, but it had some questionable characterizations. This universe was pretty much The Boys before The Boys was written. You've got jingoistic Captain America, cannibalistic horny Hulk, statutory rapist Wolverine, and incestuous Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. See, this is what happens when you try too hard to be a quote-unquote grown-up comic. I don't know what was up with the writers of the Ultimates, but they sure had a thing for gore and gore. Luckily, after time runs out, which was, when the multiverse went pow, this universe was largely abandoned, and all its best parts came to live in the 616. Speaking of worlds that cross over with the mainline universe, Earth-65, the home of Spider-Gwen, is one of them. In fact, these two universes are so interconnected that Gwen attends college on 616. She basically just commutes through universes. There are some pretty substantial differences between this Earth and the main one. For one, Peter Parker is the Lizard and dead. Matt Murdock is the Kingpin and just as much, if not more, of a smug bastard than Wilson Fisk. The original World War II era Captain America is a gender-bent Sam Wilson called Samantha Wilson, while the Falcon is a clone of said Captain America, gender-bent back into being male, and also de-aged to be younger and is slightly murdery. To be honest, most of the people on Earth-65 are slightly murdery. Tony Stark runs a PMC called the War Machines. Frank Castle, despite his family being alive and well, still ends up as the Punisher, and the Fantastic Four are a duo made up of the psychopathic Storm siblings, who killed and impersonated Doctor Doom. If you're wondering what happened to the other two members of the team, don't worry, they are A-OK. Ben Grimm is a cop keeping Yancey Street safe, and Reed Richards is a teen prodigy that occasionally helps out Spider-Gwen. For the next few worlds, we're going to do a little time traveling. First up, we have Earth-928. Or as it's more commonly known, the 2099 universe. This is the cyberpunk home of Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of Nueva York, a place owned and operated by corporations in a post-human mutant war world. Even further into the future, and into the next millennium, we have Earth-691, where the original Guardians of the Galaxy hail from. Before DNA made the iteration that would go on to grace the silver screen popular, these were the OG Guardians who went up against the cosmic big bad known as Michael Korvac, fighting him in the 31st century and teaming up with the Avengers to face him in the 21st. Turning back the clock a few dozen centuries, we reach Earth-311, the world of the Marvel Universe seen through the eyes of Neil Gaiman. In this world, mutants, or witch breeds as they're called, are believed to be the spawn of Satan. Daredevil is a travelling bard, Iron Man is an electric-powered enforcer for King James I, the Fantastic Four are a group of sailors, and Steve Rogers is the actual Captain America from the present sent back in time by President Purple Man and now living with a native tribe in the New World. Yeah, that last one is a little bit of an odd one, but it is the sole reason why the 1602 universe exists. We can thank the time portal Cap came through for Okay, I'm just gonna throw it on the screen. This is how it's spelled. I'm pretty sure it's phonetically you're supposed to say it like Peter Parker, but I'm still gonna call him Peter Parquois because I don't know, it just sounds funnier. Anyway, yes, so we can thank the time portal for Peter Parquois, Spider-Man, and Dances with Dinosaurs Hulk. We've seen different worlds with different histories in different eras, but now I want to focus on what I like to call bad endings. These are the universes where everything has gone to complete and utter shit. First, let's start with one of my favorites, Earth 21923, also known as Earth 807128, depending on which comic you're following, which is the Wasteland. Home of the Grumpy Old Men trilogy and their youthful epilogue. Now you may have heard of this world thanks to the stellar movie Logan and the middling Crystal Dynamics Avengers game, but here's the gist of it. The supervillains of the worlds banded together, they hatched a plan to kill the heroes, and they won. The end. Well, the end for about 40 years. In that time they took over the entire world and divided it between them, the US in particular becoming a lawless wasteland ruled by supervillains. But you can't keep a good hero down. Eventually, the survivors began to fight back. And that is where we have the Old Men comics, with Old Man Logan, Old Man Hawkeye, Old Man Quill, and then the final entry, the Avengers of the Wasteland. Now there's several reasons why the Wasteland is one of my favourite places in the Marvel Universe. For one, I adore the story set in it, and I'm a huge, and I mean huge, fan of seeing older, grizzled versions of characters in post-apocalyptic worlds. That and being immersed in settings set years in the future after a catastrophe is my jam. It's always interesting to see the remnants of the old world in the new one, like Old Man Logan and Hawkeye riding around in the Spider-Mobile, or Danielle Cage, the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, being worthy of Mjolnir and becoming the new Thor. Or Pym Falls, a community built around the skeleton of a still gigantic giant man. Or even the Matrix Gang, a group of multiple men copies that then bonded with the symbiote to create an army of multiple Venom men. You see what I mean? Something old becomes something new. A callback becomes part of the narrative. And of course, we can't talk about the Old Man universe without bringing up Hulk. Cannibalistic, incestuous Hulk. Man, alternate universe Bruce Banners really like to consume flesh, don't they? And that sounds like the perfect segue to our next destination, Earth 2149, the world of Marvel Zombies. Now the unique and utterly terrifying thing about Marvel Zombies is that they retain their humanity. Captain America is still leading, Iron Man is still building, and Spider-Man is still quipping. They can talk and feel just like any other regular person. The only real difference is their rotting bodies and insatiable hunger to consume the flesh of others. A hunger that they have to satisfy if they want to keep themselves from losing their humanity, or so they think. This is what makes the Marvel Zombies universe more than just a zombie apocalypse scenario in a superhero world. The zombies aren't just a mindless force that the survivors are trying to avoid, they're the protagonists. We get to follow their point of view, see them argue and debate about everything from rationing humans to keeping their decomposing bodies intact. Hell, if anything, Marvel Zombies flips the whole post-apocalyptic survivor group trope on its head by putting the zombies in the survivor role. But in a series with multiple entries, things tend to get shaken up. In one story, the zombies are scavenging the Earth for survivors. In another, they devoured the power of Galactus and are now consuming the universe. And in another, they're facing off with El Jefe himself, Ash Williams from the Evil Dead franchise.
Truly.
Speaking of horror movies, let's talk about Earth 666. Yeah, its name isn't exactly subtle. This is a world overrun by monsters, demons, and the undead, and is also the home of the Avengers of the undead. This team consists of Ghost Dr. Voodoo, Were-Hawkeye, Daredevil, that's devil with a capital D, Vampire Wolverine, Man-Spider, Actual Black Widow, Capwolf, Mummy Thor, and Frankencastle. Another fun fact, 3 of those things actually exist in the mainline universe. Can you guess which? Psst, it's Capwolf, Man-Spider, and Frankencastle. Now one fun thing about bad ending universes is they tend to get a lot of mileage, with most of them getting multiple entries and some crossovers with the mainline universe. Besides the Wasteland, Marvel Zombies, and the world of the undead, there's also Earth 9200, a post-nuclear world ruled by a super intelligent version of the Hulk known as the Maestro. Earth 811, a world subjugated by Sentinels where mutants are hunted to near extinction, which you may recognize from the Days of Future Past movie based on the Days of Future Past comic. Earth 61112, a planet nearly wiped clean of biological life thanks to the ascension of Ultron, which is also what the Age of Ultron movie was named after. And Earth TR9666, a reality where Thanos wins by wiping out nearly all life in the known universe. And of course, we can't talk about bad ending realities without bringing up Marvel's The End series. These usually take place in post-apocalyptic worlds and follow a popular character that has been changed by said world as they try to survive in it. Hulk the End in particular is probably one of the most haunting comics I've ever read and established the running theme that these series tend to share. That nothing lasts forever and not everyone gets a happy ending. Now I hate to leave things on a depressing note, so let's end this with a smile and take a look at the worlds where things are more than a little funny. That's funny haha, not funny peculiar. Actually scratch that, I mean both. Earth 8101, the world of Marvel Apes. A place ruled by a simian society and filled with hilariously punny names, which will be a running theme for these worlds. Things like the Ape Avengers, Iron Man Drill, Spider Monkey, Thorangatang, Grorilla, Shang Chimp, and Dr. Octopus. Earth 57780, Spidey Super Stories, a world made famous by its most important resident, the Thanos copter. That and the fact that it's the universe where Thanos is defeated when he lets go of the cosmic cube by accident and is arrested by the NYPD. Yes, these comics are out of continuity and intended for children, but it doesn't make seeing the Mad Titan who can punch through planets be led away in handcuffs by beat cops any less hilarious. And finally, we have Earth 8311, Larval Earth, home to everyone's favourite Suicide superhero, the spectacular Spider-Ham, and the land of animal-based name puns, which I will now list off for your pleasure, and in all honesty, mine. Captain Americat, Croctor Strange, Squawkeye, Black Panda, Galactopus, Doctor Doom, Goose Rider, Daredevil, Croak and Badger, Quacksilver, Doc Clamson, Sand Manatee, Captain Zooniverse, and Kangaroo the Conqueror. Kangaroo the Conqueror. Kangaroo the Conqueror. Oh, I hope whoever came up with these names is getting paid all the money. Well then, that brings us to the end of our tour of the Marvel Multiverse. I mean, there's still an infinite amount of worlds out there, but I don't have the time, let alone the lifespan, to explore them all. But you know what? Let's make one last stop. A place I'm sure we're all familiar with and will be visiting every chance we get. Earth 19999, the home of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not a one-to-one translation of the comics, but I think that's okay. We always expect comic book movies to be that, but what they really are what-ifs and elseworlds, taking the best parts of the main continuity and making something new. And that's the whole appeal of the multiverse, seeing something familiar but made different through a different point of view. It doesn't always work out, but when it does, it makes for some damn good entertainment. So let's raise a climb bottle to the infinitely expanding multiverse of Marvel and every other property, and hope that it brings us new worlds to enjoy in an infinite amount of ways.
This is Earth, Dimension 616. I'm from Earth 833.
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?